I don't know who those people are, but maybe they're famous. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm in Ginza, the affluent area of Tokyo in Japan. It's quite beautiful here. And being that I'm in the most affluent area, or among the most affluent areas in Japan, I am going to discuss today monetization of your startup. That's right. How are you going to make money with your startup? If you don't have a concrete answer to that, don't start your startup. Seriously. Basically, every single business you start, you better know how you're going to make money with it before you start, while you're still on paper. That's important, that's critical. If you don't have the answer to that, then don't start it. I can't stress that enough. So here's the thing. There are lots and lots of ways to make money. The way not to make money is a series of chains of if statements. What I mean by that is, if you're going to say, if I get X customers, then I will have X number of so-and-so clients, and if they buy, then XYZ will happen. That's what you don't want to do. You want to have a concrete idea of, oh, I'm jaywalking in Japan, shouldn't do that. Sorry, New York habits never die. But anyway, if you don't have a concrete path to how you're making money, where there's not that many list of variables, then you shouldn't be doing this. You need to figure that out. Now, a good business model is if you can figure out, let's say for a product, you have a supplier, they want to give you a series of products. You have a channel to sell it where there's already an existing customer base, let's say selling on Amazon or eBay. You know that when you put things up there, if they're good value, they sell, because it's Amazon and it's eBay. They already have the customers. It's not a big if I get the customers. Now, now not every channel has that option, and that's okay, but that's a calculated risk, and you have to understand reality. So let's say you're doing a car rental, luxury car rental service. Your if statement should never be, if I can keep the car rented X number of days per year, I'll make so much money. You have to know how you're going to do that. How are you going to get that car rented out X number of days? It shouldn't be a big if, it should be when. And when should not be a proposition of intent, but a concrete model. So, for example, if I can get the customers because I place ads is bad. But when I make an agreement with an existing car company to take over some of their excess inventory, that's good. See, that's a concrete model. It's very important that you have that. Now, holy cow, it is humid in Japan today. Holy smokes. It's making me sweat. Anyway, there are lots of ways you can profit from a business. And they don't all have to be concrete, which is like sales or product marketing. That's all fine. It doesn't have to be concrete. Hang on. You can profit in lots of different ways. You can profit off of long-tail business, meaning that you get a market share and then people pay you to have access to that market share. That's basically what Amazon did back in the day, though, we're talking about. I don't know if you could do that today, but you can create yourself a community. And then once you have that community, everybody pays you to access that community, and that's good. However, your business model shouldn't be, if I build this community, it should be, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do to attract that community, or how can you figure out how to do that in a way that's predictable and guaranteed, or semi-guaranteed, because business, nothing is actually guaranteed. But there are calculated risks, and the lower your risk, I'm on the wrong side of the street again, because this is Japan where people walk on the left side, not like New York where it's the right side of the street. Everything takes a little getting used to when you're traveling. But anyway, by the way, just so you know, they have these yellow lines in a lot of the streets to indicate which side of the street you're supposed to walk on. It's kind of fascinating. Actually, on this street, people are walking on the right. I don't know what's the deal with that. Anyhow, so the key factor here is you got to know how you're going to make money. There's lots of ways you can make money with a business, and they don't all have to work, but you have to have enough contingency planning in the process before you start your business to make sure that some of them are going to work and you're going to have money coming in. So you can't have it where if one idea for profit fails, that you have no money coming in. Because if you do that, you got no business. and you're gonna fail. And you also have to calculate what happens if that happens. In other words, what happens if you really don't make as much income as you think you did in that one channel? What's your contingency plan? How are you gonna make money next? You can make money in so many different ways. You can sell the traffic that you have. I don't think that's the wisest business model always, but plenty of people do that. That's basically affiliate marketing, ad revenue, those kind of things. You bring a person to your website, people click the ad, you get paid for the ad, but then you lose the customers. That's why I don't think it's a great business model, but plenty of people made millions of dollars doing that. You gotta figure out how you're gonna make money. Now, if your whole logic is that if you get so many customers, then you're gonna make so much money, you gotta know how you're gonna get those customers. And not wishful thinking. That's so many businesses I've seen do that. They all fail. I mean, if you don't have a concrete idea how you get, they don't all fail, but lots and lots of them fail. You better know how you're getting those customers. And it's not always, I'm gonna place an ad and it's gonna work. Because ads don't work a lot of times. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If you don't have existing experience in that sector, you don't know how to get your customer. You better have either discussions with people who have experience and are willing to be honest with you on how to get on customer acquisition, or have that experience yourself. If you don't, it's a calculated risk. And it better be calculated, because if it's not calculated, then you're really in trouble. So many businesses start out and they say, I'm gonna put advertisements and the customers will come, and then they don't come. Then they don't know what to do and they're in a panic mode. My personal preference is to have multiple business models in, multiple profit models in every business. I think that's very important, because when you do that, if one doesn't work as planned, you got other ones set up. So one of the common mechanisms for profit today, which isn't really ideal, is a plan for an exit strategy where you get an acquisition of a company. A lot of tech companies start off this way. They have no idea how they're gonna make money with their product, but they know that if they get enough people using it, someone will buy their company. Usually a big company like Oracle, Amazon, or Google, or one of those. But if their company's purchased, there's your business model. The problem with that, and it's not necessarily bad, but the problem with that is that it's a very high stakes bet. Because if you don't get that acquisition, you got nothing. Seriously. Anyway, so it's really important that you know how you're gonna sell your product, how you're gonna make some money with it. If it's a service, how many customers do you need to cut a profit? Seriously, it's very important to calculate this stuff. So many people come up with these service ideas where they say, I'm gonna do, I don't know, video editing for a customer. They have no clue how long it takes in terms of hours of effort to get that customer satisfied. And they might know how long it takes them to edit a clip based on how many seconds long it is or something like this. But how much time do you actually have to spend with that customer for the customer to remain happy? See, that's really key. So once you figure that out, divide up how many hours a day you feel like working, and that's how many customers you can sustain. That's the limit of that profit model. That business has a limit. There's a ceiling there. Now, then you ask yourself, well, what happens if I just hire more people? That's okay, you can do that. But if you hire more people to do it, how long are they gonna take? And how much time are you gonna spend managing them? And start calculating that out. And then you figure out, well, each person you add gets X amount of profit come in. Does that actually pay for having that hire? And then you start wondering if you have a good business model. See, if you can't even hire someone, then you don't even know if you have a good business model. Okay, hang on. Walking around Ginza here, there's a lot of cars waiting. Make that turn. So you have to make sure that you know how much the cost of your operations are too. That's part of profit models. So many people, I gotta get used to looking left when I'm on the other side of the road. God, is that messing with your mind? You know, I don't know. I'm from New York and I am not used to cars on the wrong side of the road. I know a lot of people won't like that expression, wrong side of the road, but I am not comfortable with this. Anyway, here's that line on the ground I was talking about. Telling you which side of the street to walk on. Pretty neat. I like Japan very much, actually. Just taking a lot of getting used to. Anyway, you gotta figure out how much money you can actually make based on reality of customer acquisition cost, If your business model is going to be based on placing ads or other form of advertisements, you got to know how much each customer is going to cost you. If you're planning to throw a budget of $10,000 on so many ads or online ads, print ads, whatever it is, you better figure out how many customers you need to procure in order for that to pay for itself. Now, some people have very high ticket items, like enterprise technology companies is a great example. One client is $10,000 minimum contract, sometimes $100,000. Now, when you get something like that, you can blow $1,000 in ads till you find that one customer, or $1,000 in any form of marketing for that matter. And it's no big deal because you get that one customer, that's all you need. Make plenty of money. That's a good business model, by the way. But then you got to figure out what is the delivery cost of providing that service. How much? Wow, this is like New York City. Their light is on walk and people are just driving anyway. Hold up, now it's not walk anymore. I am not used to the culture here. I'm getting used to it, and I like it very much. But it's not like New York. It's different. Oh wow, this is interesting. So this street I'm on right now has 3 walkways. Left side of the street that I'm on, right side, unless you're a tourist like them, and then a bicycle side. That's interesting. Anyway, let's talk more about business models, okay? Lots and lots of ways to make money. Most people don't think that deep into it. Some people do. Most people think product or service, this is what I'm charging, this is what I'm giving. But there's lots of ways to make money in the long tail. Long tail means after several series of instances occur, this is how much money I make. Some of those business models aren't necessarily bad. So let's say you're putting together something that leads to community building. You put together this big community of people, little by little, you make no money because you're giving away something for free to the community to attract them in. However, once you have them, then you charge access to that community to people who can benefit from it. So let's say we were talking about enterprise tech products. You got someone with an enterprise tech product, they make $10,000 a client, you build up a large community, you can charge them a lot of money to get them one client. You can, okay, if you have this big community of people, you can now get them one client, and they will pay you a finder's fee, I'm sure, or some other arrangement, and you'll make plenty of money from each sale. So that's a long tail business model. There's also, hold on, I'm about to jaywalk again, and I won't. Was about to, I should say. Okay. So other ways to make money. All right. You can sometimes find excess business models that don't normally exist. So just to throw a random one out, you find companies that have, well, we're using the word excess product inventory. Let's say there is a company that has excess items at the end of every day. Food, let's say. Food is good. Food service is good. At the end of every single day, restaurants throw out tons of food. If you can find a way to repurpose that, that's free inventory. There, now you lower your cost risk. So when you go to actually figure out your profit, it's not so hard because your inventory costs you nothing. I don't know how realistic that is because food is a item that goes bad. It's got a spoil date and all that, but it's not my industry. I know nothing about food delivery, but just for theory, you find someone who's got excess inventory in anything, food or otherwise, food service or otherwise, and you take their excess inventory so the cost is super low. Now with a low cost, you could pretty much sell it for anything, and it doesn't matter as long as you're recovering your production cost in terms of like picking up the food, getting it to the client, and any form of customer service and sales expenses and overhead. So as long as you're covering all that, it's just solid profit. Pretty easy business model, actually. It's hard maybe in food because it's a tangible item, it goes bad, whatever. But there's money to be made in lots of different ways. It's very important you calculate how you are gonna make money. A lot of tech companies use a freemium model, one where you give away something for free and then charge for something later. Either upgraded service or very commonly support contracts. It's one of the most common ways enterprise companies make money is support contracts. They give away the product for free, but in order to actually have some support for the product, you have to pay them for it. And that's a very common business model, and it's also one of the most challenging because you have to, number one, get customer adoption before you make any money at all. So the customers not only have to use your product, but they have to use it in such a way they need your support, which is typically an enterprise customer. Hold on, I'm trying to dodge the cars here. This is very similar to crossing in New York City. Not the easiest place to cross the street. But anyway, it's a challenging business model because there's a lot of ifs. You have to, number one, get the if that you're going to get customer adoption. Now, if you don't get customer adoption, that whole model makes zero money because you're giving away the product for free. So that's already a challenge. Now, if you do get the customers, are they going to be the customers that actually pay you for support? Now, the support model isn't so bad necessarily. It's just hard to get started. But you do get customer lock-in a lot of times because once they start the support, they typically don't want to end it. And that's kind of similar to a lot of subscription models in general. Things where people pay you on a monthly basis is generally a very good business model because it's a predictable revenue source. So you can predict every month if you have X number of subscriptions, you're going to have Y number of Y percentage of new subscriptions and Z percentage of drop-offs. However, which the Y and Z may be a little unpredictable, but the X stays roughly the same, meaning that the majority of your customers who are subscribing this month are probably going to subscribe next month and pay you that same amount. So that is actually a very easy business model to predict your finances in advance. You know that if you have 100 customers paying you $10 a month, $1,000 a month income, that you're probably going to get at least $900 next month, maybe more, maybe less. But at least that much is pretty reasonable assumption. Unless your product totally is terrible and everybody leaves you at one time. But that usually doesn't happen. Most products don't do that. So subscription models are particularly good for estimating how much money you're going to get on a monthly basis. Now, if your general model is to try to get some investor to buy out your company as an acquisition, procure what you got, sell your product to another company and let them take it over, anything like that, subscription models are awesome because it's a very concrete amount of monthly income. There's no guessing what the valuation is of your product. You know what it is. However many customers you have this month, you're going to have a similar amount next month. Maybe a little up, maybe a little down, but not completely off. Unless you, again, have a really bad product or something. So subscription models are kind of awesome, but they're also hard to start out because typically subscriptions don't cost that much. And it's a pretty hard business model to start, but if you have a product that leans people to subscription where you get a forced buy-in, that's like amazing. So for one example, it would be if you can't, television cable. You can't get HBO unless you pay for it. Maybe you can today online, but typically, in order to get HBO, you have to pay for it. So in order for people to watch HBO, people are paying you every month. It's a forced buy-in. Product like Oracle is even more forced. Oracle database. Once your whole back end is using the Oracle database, you are probably locked in for life. And now there are alternatives to using that, but let's say all of your internal systems are running on Oracle, you're probably going to keep that support contract forever, as long as the internal systems are still tied into Oracle. It's a great business model because it's really hard to move off of it. The finances are very clear. If you have so many subscriptions to Oracle support every month, you're probably not going to remove them so long as you're still using Oracle, and you probably can't get rid of Oracle that easily from your system if you've programmed against it. Alright, so that's tech. If you're not into tech, you may not follow all that exactly, but it's a cool lock-in. Basically, make one that's more universally, make an analogy that's more universally understandable. You got a car made in Germany, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, any of those three work really well for this example. Something proprietary on that car breaks, you have nowhere to go except the manufacturer to buy that part. Nobody makes universal parts for the three German brands for some parts, some engine parts. Maybe there's some things you can buy, but there's certain things you have to get from the dealer, as opposed to American cars that typically use a lot more off-the-shelf parts. There's some serious customer lock-in right there. If your BMW has a proprietary part break, you have no choice but to buy it from BMW. It's essentially a customer lock-in that's really good. So subscription model there would be if you had an aftermarket warranty from BMW, like an extended warranty or something you paid for. That's a subscription model. Works a little different because you pay it up front, I guess. I don't know if you call it a subscription model, but it's a great business model. That's a serious profit right there. You make a product, people have to use your parts when the things break, and as long as it's something that people accept that things break, meaning most people don't want their car to break, but they accept that your brake pads wear out. They accept that you need to change your oil filter periodically. So if your car uses proprietary brake pads, then you got a good business there. Now, another example is there's some electric skateboards out there. The parts of those things typically can only be bought from the manufacturers when they break. Not all of them, some of them. Same thing, but the difference is when they break, your customer's angry at you. So that's not really the best business model, because you don't really want lock-in because your customer's frustrated that your product keeps breaking and now they have to buy from you because they won't buy another board from you. So it's not exactly customer lock-in. I guess it is still customer lock-in, but it's customer lock-in at the cost of customer acquisition. If you have that model, and that is your model, and that's not so terrible from a business sense, it's not very ethical, but from a business sense, if you make a crappy product but that forces people to buy more repair parts from you, then from a business standpoint, it's not that bad as long as you assume that your customer acquisition cost is always going to be for one purchase. They'll never make a second purchase from you. And if your math works out that one purchase for the cost of acquisition, meaning how much it costs you for advertising and promotion to get that one customer, if your product purchase has enough profit in it to warrant that, there's a business model for you. I don't do things that way, but some people do, and it's not the end of the world from a business perspective. You're gonna end up with a lot of negative reviews and damage control that you're gonna have to do, but it is what it is. It's a profit model, and it is something that you can calculate. So that's not bad. But generally, subscription services are the holy grail of predicting income. They're really, really good. Enterprise services where you have these freemium models, give away something for free, hope that someone's gonna pay down the road. A great example is any form of software that you get for free and you pay another so much money to unlock features. That's hard. That's very difficult. You can put out that product and everyone ends up using the free version and no one buys the actual product. I've seen statistics from software companies that say I think it's 1 or 2% actually pay. The other 98 to 99% do not pay. As a standard industry demographic of how many people from the freemium model actually pay for it, it's 1 to 2%. That means you have to account for that in your customer acquisition cost. So in order to get one customer, you have to assume you need 100. That's pretty hard. One paying customer requires 100 clients. That's not so easy, and don't forget you have support for all those 100 clients. Now you may not have actual support contracts, but that doesn't mean those 100 people aren't going to email you whenever they have a problem, and you can either choose to answer them, which is cost of operations, or choose to ignore them, which will damage you at a PR level. So 100 clients to get one paying one is not an easy business model. That's the freemium model. I don't love it, but I've been involved with several companies that did use it, and some made money, some didn't. So it's a very, very risky business proposition. You're basically building an entire product on a giant if. If people will use it, then they may pay for it. You know, it's kind of, oh, I'm sweating away. It's humid here in Tokyo. Wow. It's a pretty tough business model, freemium. I don't love it. Anyway, hope this has been useful for you. All right, I'm done.